Wow, I'm live. It actually worked faster than I expected because when you start uploading a stream, it takes a while for YouTube to process it. And now it was almost instant. I don't know, maybe YouTube updated something, and that would be great. Anyway, how was your day? I'm actually a little bit nervous, to be honest, because every day I wake up, I realize it's a day closer to my son getting born. And it's exciting. You're curious, like, how is it going to look like? How is it going to impact your life? Will I still be able to work from home given the cries? How can I help my wife? Those types of questions. So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. You can hear it in my voice. But in the meantime, let's talk about something else that happened. I actually had an interesting conversation with another content creator. I'm not going to drop names anymore. I'm not going to be that guy. But there was this article which popped up, and us content creators, especially the ones in the politics sphere, we do discuss it. We do look at certain political stuff, and we give our opinions on it. And this one in particular sparked a conversation. According to this, allegedly the USDA is asking people to register their vegetable gardens. And when you hear something like this, you're thinking, is it in Britain? I mean, do you need a license for that carrot? Obviously, it's because of climate change, right? Like, everything that gives more power to the government is for the government to commune with Mother Gaia. So no, it's in the United States, right? Like, if you want to have, according to this article, at least, which was published on the website Vegetable Gardening News. And they're basically saying, well, if you want to grow vegetables, you got to register. You got to register your little vegetable garden to the government. Now, when I heard about it, I knew that it can't be real because you would basically inundate the government with this. I mean, the level of bureaucracy required. And that is the enforcement. Like, if you have, because especially in the United States, like, there are places in the middle of nowhere where you gotta drive at least 2 hours in order to hit some form of civilization, which is usually just a gas station. So, like, how are they going to enforce this, first and foremost? And secondly, if everyone actually complies, like, you would swamp the government in paperwork. So, obviously, it's not working like that. Apparently, what they want to do is only gardens larger than a certain amount, and it's voluntary as well, right? So I was arguing with the other content creator about this thing, which is voluntary, and I'm like, dude, you do know that when the government, and this is what the Canadian mind cannot grasp, by the way, like, when the government wants to push for something that people don't want it. So you know that this legislation is extremely unpopular. No one wants it, but you as the government, you want it for various reasons. There's two ways you can do it. Number one, fear-mongering, right? Like, you make it sound that people are in danger, whether themselves or their children, and the only way to abolish that danger is to vote for the bill. So this is how the Patriot Act was passed. This is how a lot of pandemic measures were passed, right? It's like, it's for the children. It's to fight terrorism, like one of these two things. Another way to do it is to start it off as voluntarily, right? It's just a voluntary thing, and the more people do it, the more easy it is to make it compulsory. Like, a perfect example is with CBDC, right? Or not even CBDC. Like, here in Europe, we are having more legislation passing which forces people to do transactions over $1,000 with credit cards only, right? So, like, everything that costs more than $1,000, you want to buy a car, you want to buy a television, you want to buy a refrigerator, you gotta go through the banks, right? So you put your money in a bank, and then the bank operates the transfer, like, facilitates the transfer. You cannot pay with cash. Now, in order to achieve this, in order for this to happen, it required a voluntary group effort from people in order to use credit cards, right? So, like, if people wouldn't have used credit cards since the beginning, or they would have used credit cards, but, like, focused on cash mostly, then this wouldn't have been possible. And it's the same thing with stuff like this. This is why I even brought it up. It's like, okay, you got the government asking you to register your garden, right? And at first it's voluntary, and if most people do it, if most people comply, then it becomes mandatory, right? So you need to be careful for this type of thing. Like they're doing it the same to some level with carbon credits. Like there are certain programs on MasterCard and Visa where I guess it's like virtue signaling points, where whenever you buy something, it has like some carbon credit value, and if you go over the carbon credits, you can't buy more things. So it is what it is. But like the fact that I'm even arguing about this, it's like, dude, you're not a 5-year-old. You're not a child. Like you should know how the government does things by now, especially if your job is to be a content creator, which analyzes politics. I say we go and establish a new civilization in Antarctica with hookers and blackjack. Like, unironically, dude, the guy. I like the Andrew Ryan Bioshock. Like. Apparently you can't have that anywhere. Like the left doesn't like it, the right doesn't like it. It belongs to God, it belongs to the poor, it belongs to everyone. Like no matter the ideology, you need to have like individuals that just can't live and let live. Like this is an impossible system. Unironically, like the idea just like let other people alone. Like no, and you notice it in history as well, right? Like, in the beginning, the Christians are persecuted heavily. Like, the Christians are being thrown to the lions in the Roman Empire. Everyone persecutes the Christians, right? There's no tolerance for Christianity. Huge bigotry. And then the Christians get in power. What do? Well, they start persecuting. It's very interesting because Christianity as a religion is kind of milquetoast compared to other religions, right? But no, like they create some really nasty persecution systems. Probably not as nasty as the Aztecs, I'll give them that. But it was like quite high up there. So you notice this, they were persecuted at the beginning, then they get power. Look what they did. Look at the history of Haiti. Like you have black people that are being kept as slaves and they're persecuted. When they get power, what do? It's almost like a never-ending cycle. Like you just cannot have people living and let living. It's no. It is what it is. I remember when the vaccine was voluntary. Oh, yeah. Like, it started like that in the pandemic as well, right? Like, I even remember in the pandemic, at least in my country, it was on the television. Like, nobody is going to try to force people to get it. And it's true, like, they didn't have the military, like, pin you down and give it to you by force. However, they made it very, very difficult for you to go about your daily life without taking it. Anyway. Yeah, we wanted to be left alone and play video games. Unironically, like, this is what I want. I just want a society where I can be left alone and play my video game. But no, the left doesn't like it, the right doesn't like it. And like, oh, what are you playing? Oh, this is too violent. Oh, no, like, we don't like it. This game has alcohol in it. This game has tobacco in it. No. It's like, dude, I'm an adult. Leave me alone. Yeah. Mexico happened, and a lot of people were cheering on Twitter. Like, I found this to be absolutely hilarious. You had people cheering on Twitter because apparently Mexico has, like, the first ever... and various checkboxes. Female, Jewish, pro-LGBT president. And I'm like, wow. That's I mean, they're so like, is their economy going to overtake the United States? No. Are they going to focus on inventing new technology that betters the world? No. So why does it matter if it's the first ever? Well, it's history. I see. Okay, fine. But then you look into the election, because I usually don't follow Mexican politics, although I probably should now. And you find out that, apparently a record number of assassinations happened this election. Let me see if I can find out how many. 37. Right, so 37 people were assassinated in the election cycle. Now, truth be told, I actually looked it up, because usually when you find like something that's this outlandish, you gotta do a little bit of fact checking. Not all of them were for presidential seats, right? So some of these assassinations were at the local level. But 37 candidates were actually assassinated, with a total of 828 non-lethal attacks. When you have such a system, I'm not sure you can say that the person who wins won because the people unironically, chose her as the representative. Like when your opponents get assassinated, it casts a little bit of doubt on the system, right? Like if you have a politician that wants to represent people, it actually works the other way around. Sorry, like people want to be represented by a politician. Like people have grievances and stuff. So they want to select someone in order to represent them. But if the person gets assassinated, then who represents those people? So is it really a democracy if you can't have a representative because you got assassinated, right? But what's interesting, though, is that most of the people that got assassinated were right-wing. Also very interesting. However, I will tell you this. When it comes to Mexico, I don't really think it matters who the president is. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like it's one of those countries where when you hear news from Mexico, it's like, oh, well, I see where the real power lies. So, first and foremost, one of the I think it was the Chapo's son or something like that, right? Like he is taken into custody. And the Chapo comes and liberates his son and then threatens the president, I think. And it's like the president backs down and pardons him. It's like, okay, well, if that's the situation, then the real power isn't with the president, now is it? Like, the real power isn't with the government. Because in America, you can't do this. Like, imagine this nonsense in America. Like, let's say you have the government arresting, I don't know, like some higher up drug lord, right? And you have like the Bloods and the Cribs like liberating them. That just doesn't happen. Like it just doesn't work that way, right? So yeah, like you can see where the power is at, and like I don't think that the president really has much to say. I mean, maybe it's in the way it represents Mexico with other states, with foreign powers, but I don't think that it's going to change much in Mexico's culture, way of thinking, way of life. Not to mention, like, there are so many examples of people in Mexico that talked about the cartels, like YouTubers and journalists. You can look it up on Google. But there's also various videos of it on YouTube itself. And it talks about, like, random people that started talking about the cartels in Mexico, right? And they weren't, like, some influential individuals. Like, they had some moderate YouTube channels. And they were basically talking about, well, I don't like the fact that there's so much crime and blah, 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 blah. They got assassinated, chat. They got assassinated. And it's like, holy shit, if that's the bar required for you to get assassinated, does it really matter who's president? If the situation is like that? And some of those that got assassinated were like, one of them was a middle-aged woman. It's like, if they treat a middle-aged woman like that, Jesus. Anyway, so, the problem, though, is that if Mexico becomes, how should I put it? Not necessarily untenable, but if the crime keeps going up, right, and it becomes unlivable and it becomes even more poor, then America is definitely going to have an issue. Because the stronger the cartels get, and the stronger and the more organized they get, then obviously it's a very lucrative business to do stuff over the border. And if you also have a president that doesn't care, well, I wouldn't want to be in Texas, is what I'm saying. Like, Texas is definitely going to be a place where the people there are going to notice a decrease in their quality of living rather than an increase. Now, is Mexico as poor as Romania? I actually don't know. I think Mexico may be richer than Romania simply because of the size, the number of people, and also the fact that it borders US. So let me see. Mexico population. Oh, it's actually 9.21 million. No, hold on. It can't be right. No, it's Mexico City. No. Dude, Mexico has a population of 129 million. Romania has a population of 16. Like, it's not comparable, right? That's like saying, well, this house with 100 people has more wealth in it than... I mean, yeah, obviously. So, no, like... But I'm actually curious. Like, what is Mexico's wealth compared to Romania? Let me ask ChatGPT. Hold on. Like, ChatGPT may know. I'm actually curious now. I can guarantee to you that the crime rate is a little bit lower here. I don't know by how much, but definitely lower. So, compare Mexico wealth with Romania. Let's see what ChatGPT has to say. It's looking for Mexico's GDP, Romania's GDP. No fucking way. No fucking way. Mexico's GDP is $1.42 trillion. Alright. While Romania is around $818 billion. But when you look at the population, and you realize that Romania is 16 million people and Mexico is over 160 million, the public deficit is kind of similar. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see in 4 years. We'll come back to this. We'll come back to this in 4 years and reassess. Still, it's also possible that ChatGPT lied to me. Oh shit! Romania has higher GDP per capita. I don't know. Is ChatGPT lying? Because, like, you shouldn't trust ChatGPT in everything it says. But, like, usually stuff like this, it doesn't get wrong. So, GDP, Mexico's nominal GDP is approximately $1.42 trillion. Right. Romania's GDP is 370 billion US dollars. So, basically, it's one-fourth of Mexico's. But then you look at the fact that Mexico has over 100 million people living in it, and Romania only 16 million people. Like, the difference is 10 times. So, whatever. Not counting drug money. Well, no, because even the drug money has to be laundered, right? So, it does actually count for the GDP. Like, this is what, if you look in Britain, like, this is something that British people don't like to talk about. But when I was in London, there were a lot of very good-looking Turkish hair salons, almost everywhere. All Turkish, for some reason. Like, there were no Asian hair salons, no British hair, all Turkish. And what they had in common, they were all close to the public. During working hours, you know, like during when you would expect that they would want customers, their doors were closed. And, you know, I'm not saying that this is how money laundering works, but it kind of is how you launder money, right? Like, you open a business, and then you infuse... It's kind of like in Breaking Bad, right? Like, Breaking Bad does that in the movie. Like, they have the car wash. Kind of like that, yeah. GDP is about money trading hands. Yeah, so like if you have dirty money and they launder it, they have to go it through a legitimate business and pay taxes to the government. So it does count for the GDP. Anyway, let's look at some of the news. Sorry, like at the video that I wanted to show you guys, because I found something interesting and I was like, wow, this is the problems that Americans deal with. Because, see, here in Europe, like, the problems that we have is how do you manage to pay the rent? How do you pay the utilities? How do you get gas for the car? Like normal issues like that. But, like, I'm curious, like, what do Americans struggle with? And I see this picture of an American in what appears to be a luxurious place, right? And it's like, okay, well, what type of hardship does this person experience? Like, how are their life different than mine? And I found out. Like, listen to this.
Looks like he's having a nice feast.
Hold on. Let me raise the volume a little bit. So the gender missed, right? Like, they got misgendered. What does it mean, chat? It means you have a gender and someone just fired, but the gender dodged.
It looks like he's having a nice feast.
Sure. Yeah, it's okay. It's all good.
But it was not all.
It was not all good, chat. It was not all good.
Good.
I use she, her pronouns. I'm not sir. Yeah, like it's like a knife in the heart. I also did specifically ask ahead of time not to be called sir. Yeah, I'm just gonna go.
It's like a knife in the heart. This is not good. It's not good, especially at a restaurant.
Okay, the Sweetwater starts at okay. Nah.
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
It's just always like a knife. It always hurts.
The thing that I don't get it is like, is it always a restaurant though? And the thing is, like, what is the expectation here? Like, again, me with my Eastern European problems, I see this person going to restaurants that I could never afford. I mean, look at this shit. Look what they're eating. Like, you'd have to go to some of the most expensive restaurants here in order to get something like that. And it's like, what? Okay, like, can we change places? Like, it's fine. You know, I will live in a world where everyone misses my gender, but I have the wealth and the luxury to go into all these places and the number of people you have on TikTok. So every single time I have like the smallest grievance, the smallest complaint, I don't even need to spend money on a psychologist. I just put it on the internet. And I get all my subscribers telling me, oh my god, that is so horrible. That is, how could that happen? And I'm like, I don't know. It is what it is.
Every single time. I was wondering if there's a manager I could talk to about something that happened. Yeah, I was called sir.
And by the way, you know, like, look at the behavior, right? So, obviously the person didn't mean it, and you want to get them fired, or like, what is the punishment? Is what I want to ask. You know, like, if this person was capable of creating legislation, like they're placed in a position, like, I know it's a democracy, but let's assume, for the sake of the argument, that they have a genie, and they could ask the genie to pass legislation, and it's like, what type of punishment should a person suffer for misgendering? Is it a fine? Do they go to prison? Do they get lashes? Like what exactly would it be appropriate? Because apparently it's a knife in the heart. I mean, that's pretty fucked up. It's pretty serious, right? So like, what exactly should happen to them? Now, what I notice is that it's never the answer to misgender them back, right? Because if misgendering is so awful, then like, a person that does it, being misgendered themselves, would finally understand. And they would finally get it. But no, like, this is not the solution, it seems.
Okay. It just really sucks every time it happens. I don't need to be called ma'am. I just need to not be called sir. You know? Thank you. Did you call me sir? Hey, I just want to tell you that the person who gave me this called me sir. Called me sir. Just like, it kind of just hurts a lot to get called sir.
It's like a knife in the heart.
Very good. Thank you so much. No. Yeah. Thank you. I'm not a sir. Nothing like a good misgendering. It is a knife in the gut when I...
No, wrong. It's like a knife in the heart. I'm sorry, it was well established. This is established lore. We established it here.
A knife in the heart?
See? I mean, come on.
Sir, I feel like I need to tell him. I need to tell him that hurt. It hurts more when it's not intentional because it means like this is sir to him.
But like, didn't we establish that we shouldn't stereotype? So like, why should the person look at that and automatically assume ma'am? Like, why can't the person look at it and you know, like, it's just the default, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they're misogynistic. Maybe they're not transphobic. Maybe they're just misogynistic.
I know you didn't mean it, but I'm not a sir. It's okay. I know you didn't mean it. It's just,
Why do they lie, though? Like, if they say that it's okay, but it's not, then why are you lying? Just tell people, no, it's not okay. Stand up for yourself.
It hurts. I know when people talk to me, it's fine, but, like, it does kind of hurt. Thank you. I'm not sir.
The thing is, though, when you're a waiter, let me tell you this, right? When you're a waiter, because I waited, I don't know if this person waited, because, most people that seem to come from wealthy backgrounds, and if you can go to so many restaurants and have, like, so many expensive stuff, you probably are from a wealthy background, even if you yourself don't know it. But most people can't afford to actually eat at a restaurant. Like, can you even perceive that? Especially from other parts of the world, right? So, my point is, when you're a waiter, and especially when you have to deal with so many customers, you gotta deal with so many people, and you're in a rush, and you have people screaming at you, like the cook is screaming at you, your colleagues are screaming at you, there's customers screaming at you. You don't really have time to, like, just like, notice every little detail, right? So you're just like, yeah, here you go, yeah, sir, yeah, ma'am, whatever. But to make such a big deal, to want to get that person fired, to want to get that person out of a job, is this compassion? Where is your compassion? It's like, yeah, I get it, like, getting misgendered is awful, but you know what else is awful? Getting fired. See what the chat is saying. Not just use any pronouns. Call them hey you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if I had a lot of customers like that, which apparently it's a big deal, then you just call them hey you. Yoi. Oi. Like, maybe this is why companies have pet names. And I think, like, on Twitter, they were called Twiddles or something, because they're just like, oi, Twiddle. And that's it. Like, she heard them. It's like, okay. I still didn't understand. Is it like a knife in the gut or the heart? Because that was confusing. Like, I'm trying to educate myself, but we need consistency here. Like, we need to have a person that, like, once you establish the canon, once you establish the lore, I want you to keep following it. Otherwise, it's like Netflix, race swapping and gender swapping characters, and that is also offensive. By the way, can I make a TikTok video and say how it's like a knife in the heart whenever Netflix takes an IP that I grew up with, and then they do a race swap or a gender swap? It does feel like a knife in the heart. Actually, I do make YouTube videos about that. How is it different? Like, why is my experience invalidated? Why can't I get people validating my experience? I mean, let me show you what Netflix is allegedly doing now. So this is just announced. Like, we don't know for sure. This is rumored, but it's enough to upset people. And it's about One Piece, right? So Netflix is going to cast, and I'll tell you why I think it's a rumor in a bit. But they're attempting to cast Megan Thee Stallion as Boa Hancock in One Piece, right? So why are they misracing this? Why do they constantly misrace? Every single time, it's like a knife in the heart. These are the things that I grew up with. Not One Piece, by the way. I never watched it. But like everything else, all the other shows, they constantly misrace. It's knife in the gut and the heart. Simultaneously. And I'm suffering. I'm suffering from this and no one cares. In fact, when I tell them, you know what they do? They mock me. They mock and ridicule me because they are bigots. They are intolerant. They do not have a single ounce of compassion in their heart. They can't put themselves into my shoes. They cannot understand what it's like to open the television to the shows that you grew up with and to see this constant misracing happening time and time again on all the channels everywhere. Just stop it, Netflix. Be better. I haven't watched season 1 because it's fucking Netflix. All right, like, you're not going to catch me watch this thing. However, I will say that it doesn't surprise me. They do this constantly, right? So whenever they do a remake, whenever they do a bait and switch, the first season has the potential of being good. Like, very rarely does it happen, but every now and then they do make a really great first season. And if, heaven forbid, it actually gets popular with the normies, they ruin it. This is why I hate normies. And this is why gatekeeping is important. And this is why it really annoys me when I see Kirsche trying to explain to Tim Pool about VTubers. Or when I see other people trying to explain why anime is good to Matt Walsh. Does Matt Walsh need to like anime? No. Matt Walsh should never like anime. It is good that Matt Walsh does not like anime. I do not want more normies to like the hobbies that I have, because the hobbies that I have are so few due to the fact that all the other hobbies that I had are ruined. I can't play Mass Effect Andromeda. If you can, you fucking try. I can't touch that shit. You know, I can't play Saints Row. It's garbage. If you can, tell me how you did it, right? So, why are these things becoming awful? It's because normies get interested in it. Look at Game of Thrones, right? Game of Thrones, first season. Edgy. Fucking edgy. You get to see tits on the screen. You get to see a child getting pushed off a tower because the Cersei Lannister and her brother are porking. You get to see Khal Drogo getting Daenerys into that tent, you know. And a lot of people seem to like that, right? Very immoral show, very obscene, but like it becomes a world phenomenon. Why? More and more normies go to see it. And when normies go to see it, they go like, but there is sexism in this medieval universe. Yeah, like in this medieval shithole, there is sexism. We don't like sexism. And then as the seasons go on, you notice that in the beginning it was like a believable medieval universe, which is why the show was interesting, because it was dark. And it wasn't dark in a sci-fi sense. It was dark in the sense like, look how bad things were in the past. Like, look how awful the leaders were. Look how bad the leaders were. And look how bad the peasants used to have it, and look how awful it was if you weren't a noble, right? And that's how it started. It was dark because it tried to recreate the society of the past, and by watching it, you appreciate just how far we've come. We appreciate like what we have in the now. But then the normies go around and they're like, well, but it's not according to liberal morality. It's not according to Rags' point of view. Rags doesn't like it. Can we change it? Like, Rags needs to... So now it's all the women are leading all the armies, right? Daenerys is leading her army, which, by the way, was part of the plot. Like, I got no problem with that. Cersei is leading her army, which is bizarre. Like, is there no other male Lannister in this male patriarchal kingdom, medieval society, right? You got the bear lady, the Mormont lady leading her army. You got Sansa leading her army. Like, she just kills Littlefinger and all of a sudden gets access to all her troops, because that's how it works. It's like a fucking video game. You got, hold on, what are, it was like women everywhere, right? Complete immersion breaking. And then the quality also goes down. And it's like, okay, this is what happens when normies like your shit. This is what happened when Matt Walsh likes your stuff. Like, it's paramount to keep Matt Walsh away from anime. It is paramount to keep Tim Pool away from VTubers. It's like, when they say, oh my god, it's disgusting, it's disturbing, what you need to say, yes, absolutely, oh, how can you justify it? Oh, I absolutely can't. I have no idea why people watch that. Horrible. I watch only Netflix. I watch only Rick and Morty. I watch only the stuff that's made in America, in the good old US of A. You know, it's LGBT month, it's Pride month. I watch Disney. That is the only entertainment that I consume. I like women unless they put on a VTuber avatar, then I don't like them anymore. I'm, you know, like that is the conversation you need to have. Do you know what happens if you want to be Jewish? I'm not even kidding. This is legit. Like, look it up. Unless I've been misinformed. If I'm being misinformed, do I have a Jew in the chat? Is that a person that's Jewish? I want to verify this information. I must have a Jewish person in the chat. Come on, at least one. At least one. I don't? Does that make me anti-Semitic? I don't think so. Because they get upset if you don't have, like, liberals get upset if you don't have, like, at least one person of every creed, religion, demographic. Alright, fine. I will tell you now. So, if you want to convert, like most religions, no, it's not about circumcision. Most religions are actively interested in getting converts, right? Like the Mormons. The Mormons go out of their fucking way. They will knock at your door when you're eating, right? Sorry, not the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they go out of their way in order to knock at your door, in order to tell you about their Lord and Savior, right? I think the Mormons do it as well. The Muslims. Oh, the Muslims, I mean, if you don't convert, they're going to have a couple of words with you, right? But if you're looking at Jewish people, like Orthodox Jews, apparently in order to convert, it's actually very difficult. You gotta ask a rabbi, and the rabbi apparently 3 times will tell you no. Why does the rabbi do this? Why does the rabbi tell you 3 times that they're not interested in your conversion? The reason that they do this is to make sure that you're actually interested. That you're willing to do it. And then it's the circumcision as well, right? So like, I don't think like the circumcision itself was done due to this. But it's still something that, you know, you need to make sure that you're serious about it. And after the circumcision, you also have to like follow their traditions for 1 year, and you have like I don't know how it's called. It's not necessarily like a monitor, but it's like someone that observes that you're following all the traditions and you understand everything, right? So that's how you gatekeep. That's how you manage to make sure that your hobby only has people that unironically want to join because they like the hobby. Thank you, Midwest Finest. I appreciate it. I'll put it in the tip jar. American Outlier for $5. I hope this is a rumor. Netflix already did once a race swap, and if true, this will lead to a backlash like Assassin's Creed Yasuke, creating more conflict. I don't think so. I think like Assassin's Creed was in a bad spot as it came up after a controversy with Sony already. Gamers were united, and the problem is that people really wanted Assassin's Creed in Japan, right? Like they unironically wanted an authentic experience. Like what people wanted was a team of historians dedicated at studying Japanese history and culture, and then recreating that as accurate as possible. Now, it's true that, you know, like maybe Yasuke was, but like people didn't want that. Like didn't want like a guy that has like 5 paragraphs of history. Like, no, they would have wanted someone which is very rich in Japanese lore, in Japanese history, like made a significant impact. That's what people liked. So they were upset when they didn't get that, and that's what the boycott is about. Circumcision should be banned for under 18s. I think if you do that, you will have a huge problem in people wanting to get circumcised. I mean, how many people would choose? By the way, there's also a thing that people do here in Romania, which you can say it's barbaric. I'm actually curious if they're doing it in the United States. Do you guys pierce the earlobe of the female girl? Like when you have a young daughter, like my grandma used to do it, they pierce the earlobe so that they can put earrings. And I've never heard that being done outside of Romania. Like I'm curious if you guys have, because like you get these Romanian earrings that just have like a little needle that and you're like, how does it work? And it's like, well, apparently like the woman has like a hole in her ear, and you put the earring over there. Yeah, like a child. It's like circumcision, but it's not religious. It's cultural, I suppose. Now most earrings, they just have a clamp. So like there's a clamp. Sorry, like they just cling to the ear, so that's not needed anymore. Some do, not everyone do. Cubans do that. Yeah, ear piercing. That's what it's called. Yeah. Like when you try to describe it without using the actual words, it sounds very, very nasty. In Poland, it's up to the parents. Some have, some not. Well, I'm going to have a son, so the decision has been taken away from me. But yeah, it's an interesting question. Like if I was to do it or not. The thing is, like if you don't do it and then she grows up and wants to do it, it's more painful. But like if she was, the thing is though, it's a myth, isn't it? Right? Because obviously it hurts even when you're a kid. They just can't articulate the pain, right? Like when you do circumcision and you have a baby. Like the myth that it doesn't hurt is false. Obviously it hurts. It probably hurts a lot. But they don't have the words to articulate just how painful it is. And it's the same with the ear piercing. It's like, yeah, it hurts, but like, it's just going to cry. It's not able to articulate, right? It is normal in Holland. I see. Yeah, but like now I don't know why you would do it, because like most earrings that I've seen, they have the ability to just be to cling to the ear. Obviously they can fall down, right? So I think like that is the difference. Like if you have some expensive earrings, especially if they're heavy, you don't want them, especially if they're valuable, right? Because that's the thing, it's the value. So like if you have golden earrings or something like that, then they just you don't want them to slip away. You don't want them to fall down. No, I'm not Jewish, but I did study about religions, right? So I studied about Christianity. I studied a little bit about Islam. I studied about Judaism. Like Judaism is actually something that most people know because of the Old Testament, right? So, but they do have traditions and they do have like other cultural things that most Christians don't follow. It's different now. It's just a little ring that goes around the penis, no knife. What the fuck? Okay, I guess. It barely hurts to get an ear piercing. Well, if that's the case, then if I had a daughter, I would allow her to choose for herself if she wants one or not. Yeah, I think like this idea. Oh well, it's a child. Sorry, it's a baby, so it doesn't feel. No, it does feel pain. It's just that it doesn't have the words to tell you how bad it is. I think most girls get their ears pierced during their teenage years. Well, my grandma, like obviously I've never had to witness the ritual. But my grandma said that she got her ears pierced when she was young. So like, I think she was 3 or 2 years old or something. But like the question is like, okay, so like how do you maintain that hole? Like how does it not heal? And it's like, well, yeah, but like you gotta every week or so you put another needle, and I'm like, what the fuck? I genuinely don't know. Unironically, it's one of the things that I have no idea about how it's being done. Anyway, let's see if there's any other news that came out today, because I remember there were a couple. Oh, I got 2 messages. Are Christian. Oh, fucking hell. Okay, so. Our Christian bans Christian beliefs. Effective immediately, we have added sub-rule 5, LGBTQ inclusive. This space is inclusive and welcoming of LGBTQ Christians. It is prohibited to question the character, faithfulness to God, sincerity of LGBTQ Christians. Debate against the inclusion and equality of LGBTQ Christians is not allowed. This includes asserting that it is a sin to be in an LGBTQ relationship. Okay, so now you like, I get not questioning the sinner. Like you can make the biblical argument. It's like, well, you know, we do want LGBTQ people to come to us because you know, we believe in redemption, and how else are they going to hear the word of the Lord, and blah, blah, blah. Like, you can make the argument, but apparently you can't talk against the sin itself. Now I'm not a Christian, I'm an atheist, so I generally don't care about this argument. But, like, if you're not ironically a Christian, it's in the Bible. I mean, even the Pope agrees. Like how can you justify it? While all Christians are welcome here, we ask that you refrain from voicing a non-affirming position in this subreddit to help us maintain an inclusive and respectful community space. Yeah, but you're a Christian. Like, Christians by definitions are not inclusive, and I mean they can be respectful, but they're not inclusive. Like, for instance, you can't be inclusive towards heresy. I'm not saying that LGBTQ plus is heresy. It's just like, according to the Bible, it's sinful. But like, If you have Cathars, right? Like if Cathars, or if you have like people of various denominations that are subversive to Christianity itself. Like you can't be inclusive to it. You can't be inclusive towards socialism. You can't be inclusive towards other religions. Like if you are, then you're not a Christian, which is fine. Like but be honest with yourself. No, but the thing is, like, this is why Reddit is laughable. Like, whenever someone tells me, well, I read this on Reddit, or this is what people think on Reddit, like, who cares? It's already curated. Like, all the people that think differently. Like, for instance, the patriarch, like, I just want you to understand why this is dumb, alright? In case you haven't got it. The Romanian patriarch, the head of the Romanian Orthodox Church, cannot join this. Like, he would get banned. So how can you have a forum for Christians when the head of the church himself would get banned? Like, this is LARPing. This is not Christianity. I'm sorry. The Pope himself would get banned. Yeah, like, ironically, one of the most progressive popes. Like, I can find things that he said which would violate this rule, and he would get banned. So, what is the Christian... What type of... I mean, I guess you can be like some sect that's like, well, I get to pick and choose what I like from the Bible, LOL, which is probably what they're doing, which is also fine, but you're not really like an actual, official, recognized denomination of Christianity. These are the progressives subverting the art topic. Well, I got another one for you. It's even more hilarious, because with this one, again, you can say, well, you know, there's some people LARPing as Christians, like there are people LARPing as Wiccans, or some other pagan denominations. Like, they don't actually follow paganism as it was meant to be followed. They're basically, you know, picking and choosing what they like. But on our atheism, you can't question Islam. And it's like, well, hold on a little bit. Like, the atheism means that you're questioning the existence of God. Islam claims that God is real. Like, how can you be an atheist and not question Islam? My favorite take was also the mainstream media. Like, there's this thing in Germany with the police officer, right? Like, the police officer sees a person tackling down a terrorist. He wrongfully tackles down the person that was subduing the suspect, and the police officer gets stabbed. And this is happening at a far-right rally, right? So you have a person at a far-right. Now the media calls the guy, like, when I saw it, I couldn't stop laughing. It's like, wow, the absolute state of language. Like, look how they butchered the language. They call the guy an Islamophobe. So, like, okay, let's just back it up and listen to what the fuck you're just saying, right? Like, a phobia is an irrational fear. Okay, so you're saying that the guy is irrationally afraid of Islam, but an actual member of that faith tried to stab him and then ended up stabbing a cop. How is the fear irrational? Like, no, but, you know, like, you're never going to have these debates with the journalists. Like, the solution is to ban anyone that questions. Like, that is the solution, you know? Which is what the German government did. Like, they realized that the video doesn't make them look very good, so they requested Twitter to take it down. Right, so the German government, I just want you to understand what they're doing. They took down that video, but not only that, the German media, the press, they censored the face of the terrorist, right? So, like, we shouldn't know who the terrorist is because, well, you know, he needs to have his decency maintained and whatever. His dignity, not decency. He needs to have his dignity maintained anyway. But a couple of weeks ago, you had people that were peacefully singing a German a song, Ausländer out or something like that, like foreigners out. They were peacefully singing. Their names were in the paper. They got doxxed. They got fired. Right. It's very interesting. And the thing is, like, I asked, like, what do most Germans think? And it's like, well, most Germans are fine with this. It's like, well, if Germans like that, I mean, like, who am I to disagree? It's their culture. The thing is, like, it's not even it's not the violence that's the issue, because obviously, like, you know, you don't get knife attacks every day, or I don't know. And if you do, just move out of the city. Like, that's easily fixable. The problem is that you're going to have people that eventually form political parties, run for office, and will take the seats of the politicians that are clinging to those seats desperately. Because this is what all the hate speech laws are for. It's not to protect Muslims, it's to protect the politicians from accountability. They made decisions, and they don't want people to vote them out. So this is why they need to censor and block and ban and intimidate the populace into compliance. But the issue is that, and you get to see it, like you already have rallies that are pro-Hamas, and you have movements in Germany and UK and France. And in UK, it's already happening. Like you get people that appeal to the Muslim demographic, and they manage to make sweeping victories. Like they managed to beat Labour, they managed to beat the Conservatives significantly. And they're pro-Islam. And when you're going to have more of that, and you're going to have like more political power and backing, well, all these politicians that are clinging to their seats are going to realize, oh, well, let's hold that a little bit. I can't call them Islamophobe because they're literally pro-Islam. I'm pretty sure that they changed the definition of phobia to include hatred. Did they? Hold on, let me check. That would be fucking hilarious. If they changed it, it's like not according to the etymology of the word. An extreme irrational fear. Or aversion to something. But it's such a slight change, right? Like, you notice it's not grassroots. You notice it's not most people, like when you say I have a phobia of spiders, like no one can think that, oh, you have like a irrational hatred or an aversion to spiders. No, like they're thinking like, okay, if you put a spider in front of me, I'll scream. That's what arachnophobia means. Yeah, okay, so they changed the definition. I see what you did. Yeah. But like, again, you already have a definition for hatred. Like, why do you need another one? But it's, like, by the way, it's still based on irrational. That's a good point. Yeah, like, it's gotta be irrational. Yeah, like if it's rational, it's not a phobia, according to the definition. Man, the English language is constantly evolving. You gotta be careful, because, one day you may use something, the other day you realize that what you're using is not right, and you get fired. Hold on. Let me see if I read all the super chats, because American Outlier said that he sent me a bunch of them. No, I read all of them. Why are you showing me lewd pictures, American Outlier, while I'm streaming? You're distracting me. Now I want to see that picture again. By the way, what happened with the Afkai Expo? Because I heard that they were bad to Fishman over there. Like, they didn't appreciate. Oh, they people say they sabotage Pipa? Is that what happened? Were there saboteurs? I'll have to check it out. Look at this. Apparently, Facebook is in big trouble. It was being discovered that the Facebook COVID vaccine fact checkers are funded by vaccine companies. Is this true?
Who pays?
I'll have to look into it. But yeah, like this answers my question. How do you become a fact checker? Like, why don't they teach the secrets and the intricate mysteries of fact checking? Because apparently, like, fact checking is this lost knowledge that only a few people can have. Like, most people, they can't differentiate fact from fiction, but the fact checkers can. The volunteers had some traitors in their midst. One of my friends is a Muslim, but he has a syncretic faith that is a blend of Islam, Christianity, and the teachings of J.K. Rowling. Oh my god. I always found it, in one way you always find it cringe. Because when you see someone that's, having like this religion based around pop culture. It's like, oh, he's a Jedi, and it's like Jediism as a religion, or he's like part of the J.K. Rowling thing. It's like, God, it's so fucking cringe. But then you realize that, well, aren't all religions made like this? Now, if you're a Christian, or if you're a Muslim or whatever, like you obviously believe in your faith, right? So you do believe in God, you do believe in Allah. But like, think about it that there's other people out there, like for instance, the Hindus, right? So if you're a Christian or a Muslim, you gotta believe that the Hindus are fake, like none of it is real. But okay, let's pick something that can resonate with Hindus as well. In case I have a Hindu in the chat, I don't want him to feel left out. The Legends of Olympus, right? Like back then in ancient Greece, more than half of the human population believed in the Greek god. Like that's insane, right? And they had temples, and they were donating to the temples, and everyone believed in Zeus and Apollo and all of the. How does that happen? Like how does it happen? And the answer is, like, at some point someone said the story, and people liked it and kept saying it, and then they really believed in that story. They really found it interesting, and then more stories came out. Because it's gotta... No, seriously, like, think about it. It's so fucking interesting, right? Like, we know 100% certain that the Olympic gods weren't real, right? Like, no one on Earth today believes in the Legends of Olympus. Like, no one thinks that Poseidon is real. No one thinks that Zeus is real. But there was a time when people did believe, and there was no way you could debunk it, right? Like, people didn't have the technology to explore the seas. People didn't have the ability to climb Mount Olympus, and even if they did, like, imagine this, okay? Imagine you do climb Mount Olympus. You got no phone to show other people your TikTok videos. Like, who's going to believe that you did it? Right? Like, even if you bring like 20 of your friends and you all climb up on Mount Olympus, and you're all at the peak, and there's no gods, there's no one there, right? When you go back into the city and you tell people, hey, I actually climbed and there's nothing, who's going to believe you? Like, no one is going to believe you, right? So you can't debunk it. It's undebunkable. But like, someone had to make it up. Like, someone had to create this shit. Someone that didn't go on Mount Olympus, they actually thought, hey, what if there's gods there? Because the Olympian gods were real entities. The Book of Enoch calls them watchers. Yeah, but it doesn't fucking matter. Like my point is, at the time, with the technology available, you couldn't debunk the fact that the gods weren't real. Like, there's no way you could have convinced people, hey, I went on Mount Olympus and there is no one. Even if you did go, like, even if you were actually to climb the thing, you wouldn't be able to convince anyone that you did. Poseidon is equally as real as any other god. I see. So my point is, right? Who created these things? Like, there were writers that literally, you got like so many stories with Artemis, who is butt naked in the forest, taking a bath, and this hunter manages to catch her. Like, he accidentally stumbles upon her, and she just turns him into a deer, and the hunter's own dogs tear him to shreds. Who made this story, right? And some of the stories are so fucked up, man. Like for instance, Poseidon is an asshole. Like there's this, I think it's a priestess of Athena. Yeah. Like, Athena, honestly, like, Athena is one of the most misogynistic goddesses out of the bunch. Like, let me tell you a story. There's a lot of feminists that side with Medusa. And Sargon didn't understand. It's like, well, why are you siding with the monster? But Medusa does have a very tragic story. So Medusa is this priestess of Athena. And part of the thing is that she has to be a virgin. It's like how it works. But apparently she's unbelievably beautiful. Like, she's one of the most beautiful women in the land. And Poseidon finds out that she is absolutely beautiful. So he comes out of the water and he rapes her. Right? Now, she can't do anything because Poseidon is a god. She can't fight against him. She can't do anything. She's obviously distraught about this, right? Because she actually does serve Athena and she cares about her virginity. And then Athena comes up, finds out what happens, and punishes her and turns her into Medusa. And then she gets killed by Perseus. And I'm like, who wrote this story? What is the moral here? Like, what am I supposed to learn from this? And the answer is that the gods are unfair and they're petty. Like, the Greeks actually solved the problem that Christianity has, right? Like, one of the biggest problems that Christianity has to solve is like, well, if God is good, why bad things happen, right? Like, this is something that most Christians struggle with. It's like, if God is good, why bad things happen? The Greeks had no issue with this. It's like, no, the gods are dicks. And they do what they do because they're stronger than us and they can just do it, right? So, like, the only thing you can do with the gods is to try your best to appease them and maybe you're successful. But, like, imagine having that worldview, you know? It's really fair. It's like might makes right. It's like, well, the gods do what they do because they're strong. They're not human. They're gods. If they want to fuck with you, they will. And sometimes they fuck with people without without any reason or rhyme. You know, like people that didn't deserve it. People that, no. Yeah, Greeks knew about the human condition, unironically. Oh my fucking god, like there is another story. The story of Arachna. The story of Arachna is actually the one that I like the most. So you got this. I think it's a seamstress, right? Hold on, let me check because I don't wanna accidentally say a different story. So. Yeah, so it's not a seamstress. She was the fuck do you call this when you weave? A weaver, I think. Yeah, like she was able to weave very beautiful art pieces. And apparently she was like the best weaver in the land, right? And she was also cocky about it. Here you go. Like, she was really, really cocky about her skills. Because she knew she was the shit. And she basically started saying that she is better than the gods. Now, apparently, the goddess of wisdom, Athena, also, despite the fact that Athena is like a tomboy, you know, like if Athena was today, and she would go to a British school, I'm pretty sure like a teacher would try to crack her egg and say, well, actually, Athena, did you ever consider that maybe you're like Aries? But anyway, right, like Athena, despite the fact that she was a tomboy, she apparently did have a couple of more traditional gender traits, such as weaving. But Arachne was like, no, fuck it, I weave better than her. I weave better than Athena. Like, bitch has nothing against me. I'm the shit. So what Athena does is she actually transforms herself into an elderly lady, right? And she goes to Arachne and is like, well, maybe you shouldn't speak like this about the gods, old missus. Maybe you shouldn't say stuff like that because, you know, like the gods can be wrathful. And it's like, I don't fucking care. I speak the truth. I weave better than the fucking gods. So, Athena reveals herself in her mighty glory, and is like, well, are you still going to talk bad shit? And it's like, well, I'm not talking bad shit. I'm not selling no wolf tickets, lady. I can actually weave better than you. Alright, fine. So they start weaving. And Athena, like, weaves this very beautiful tapestry with some of the Greek heroes, and, you know, it's very beautiful. But Arachne, like, she makes this tapestry with Zeus raping women, with Poseidon. You know, like, she's like, hashtag me too. Like, I know what you fucking did. Like, a very disrespectful tapestry. And on top of that, it's even better than Athena's, right? Now it's interesting because Athena is the judge, and she could have, but no, like, even she admits. But she rage quits. Like, literally, she rage quits. Turns Arachne into a spider. Right, so in order for Arachne to keep spiting the gods, the spider still weaves the silk. And I'm like, you know, who wrote these things? Like, who came up with these stories? Back in the day, people used to plant flags to show proof of heroism. Today they plant LGBT flags to show submission. No, it's like, it's not necessarily submission. It's like to show, to assess dominance. Like, didn't you see what happens with cars that leave skid marks on the sidewalk? Oof. Spinner in Germany means crazy person. I see. Hubris has bad consequences. I guess that's the moral of the story, but the thing is, like, she could back it up. Like, is it hubris if you're actually, like, if you weave better than the gods themselves, is it hubris if you say, yeah, no, I'm pretty good? In fact, she would probably be more annoying if she would have said, yeah, I can weave a little bit, and then she's weaving this whole thing, which is better than what the gods themselves do. A kid asked, why do spiders make webs to the parrot? Well, that parrot had, like, probably not just a vivid imagination, but he was on 7 different types of shrooms, and he probably had too much Greek ale to drink. Most likely men that were married to nagging wives wrote the story. If God is willing to prevent evil but not able, then he is omnipotent. Is he able but not willing, then he is malevolent. You know, I can actually solve this psychological problem very easily. Okay? Like, I don't even know, like, why Christians... Well, actually, I don't know why Christians are bothering with this philosophical thing. Okay, so, like, if God good, why evil happens, right? Like, if God good, why bad shit happens? It's very simple to explain. If you look at the Christian philosophy, the life that we have now, fucking hell, like, I'm an atheist and I'm holding a sermon, all right? I would probably, would it not be fun if I open a Christian channel and I start, you know, probably going to get more views than Melanie Mac, huh? All right, listen here, you big. I will start my sermon now. I will proselytize, okay? So the life that we are blessed with right now is not the actual life. The actual life is the eternity that we will spend in the afterlife. Like, that is the actual existence, right? This is transitory. Like, if you think about the life that you spend in paradise, which goes on for millennia and then more millennia after that, this is going to feel as if only a couple of seconds have passed. So, why do we get this life? Well, this is a test, right? Like, God wants to see if we love him or not. He gave us a test. He gave you the burden in order to accept his teachings and accept his love. And if you do that, after you die, then you go to paradise. And if you don't, then you get separated from God, which is hell. And hell is actually not described in the Bible, like, you know, like all these paintings with devils and shit. Yeah, they're not really canon. The Bible doesn't really go into detail on what hell is, except the fact that it's separation from the divine, right? So it's like separation from God. But basically, yeah, like, that's what it means. So if God good, why bad things happen? Well, you need the test. Like, this is part of the test. And it's also the idea that you cannot have joy without suffering, right? So, like, you need to endure in order to be able to enjoy the time where you do not experience the suffering. But anyway, right, like, I'm an atheist and I know this shit, and it is so cringe when I see someone, oh, well, if God is good, why is it that? Did I do a good job? Huh? Do I have charisma? He gave us a test he already knew the outcome of. Well, yeah, but, like, he wants you to know the outcome. He wants you to feel responsible. Like, of course he knows the outcome, but he wants you yourself to know yourself. He wants you to make the decision. And by the way, like, it can also be, if you're thinking about it, it's like watching a movie, right? Like, if a movie is made, you can know the outcome. Like, okay, not a movie. This live stream, right? Like, this live stream in the chat. You guys have free will. You guys can type whatever you want. And you press enter and it appears on the screen. But the thing is, if you watch the stream again, you already know what happens. And it seems as if you don't have free will. It seems that when you watch the stream again, when you replay the stream, it's literally the same comment sections that will come out. Always. Right? So, do you have free will or not? And the answer is yes, you have. Do you know what's going to happen when you rewatch the stream? Yeah. So you can still have free will and you can still know what happens. So it doesn't necessarily contradict stuff. The best explanation is like if you're on the Titanic, right? And you got a notebook and you write down everything that happens on the Titanic. Like, you know, all the way to the ship sinking. You write down who dies, how, you know, who they are. If you relive that time again, if you go back and you rewind, you know, everyone has free will. They like the captain that's driving the boat can have free will, but he will never avoid that iceberg because it already happened. So it's kind of like that. See, I can do a good job at being a priest. I can explain. Honestly, I think the best priests are atheists because they already know the arguments and they already think about it. Like, you don't learn it through dogma, because if you learn it through dogma and it's like, well, this is what you need to say, it doesn't really adapt to the situation. But if you're actually thinking about it, like you actually had the moment where you are an atheist and you question the things and you actually try to rationalize them, then it makes sense. Being aware of what will happen doesn't mean you made it happen. Correct. If you know the decision, doesn't matter what the choice you made. Yeah, it doesn't, but it matters to you. Like, you yourself knows, right? Like, if you want, the concept of love is also the concept, like, you're not really a slave, right? Like, you had free will. You could do everything you did. Now, he knows what happens, but, like, you made it happen, if that makes sense. Like the chat you just posted, like the comment you posted, right? Now, if I rewind the stream, I know you will post it again. But you still had the decision not to post it. That is just cruel. I don't know. Intelligent atheists, yes. The dumb ones are just pleasure-seeking and in the feels. I don't know if pleasure-seeking is necessarily wrong. I think, like, people need to take things into moderation. It's like, drinking is fine, just don't become an alcoholic. Like, watching porn is fine, just don't become a chronic masturbator. You know, and obviously, like, some things are never good. Like doing drugs. But, like, smoking, it also depends. Like if you smoke one of those Turkish things, what are they called? Nargile, right? And you smoke it once every week or so, like, that's fine. But if you become a chain smoker, that's not fine. You know? As long as you do everything in moderation, you should be fine. But the problem is most people can't do things in moderation. Because most people are retarded. Most people find something they like, and it doesn't matter if it's pornography, it doesn't matter if it's alcoholism, it can be video game addiction, it can be social media addiction, like whatever. It can be food addiction, like you get people that are morbidly obese, right? Like, it applies to literally everything. Stop doing it in constantly, just do it in moderation. Unless it's weed. I actually did notice that many countries are legalizing weed. There's this conspiracy that weed was banned in order to protect tobacco. I don't know how true that is, but yeah. Basically, they couldn't make the argument why alcohol should be allowed and weed shouldn't. Like, that's the argument. And unfortunately, you know, like some countries where I live in, it's like weed is not just illegal, but they want to crack down on it even harder. And it's like, well, America tried that. And it doesn't really work. And to put someone in prison because, you know, they were caught having weed, I don't know if that's a good use of taxpayer money. If that's, like, you're putting someone that was, like, a teenager that was possessing weed, you're putting them into prison. And they're going to interact there with the lowest of society. And they're going to have this thing called social contagion. Are they going to come out a better person? Probably not. Right? It is what it is. I do agree with, like, hardcore drugs, like stuff like heroin and methamphetamine. Like, yeah, those are bad. But, like, yeah, I think, Germany was the latest country that legalized it. Yeah, I think Germany is on the right track. I can't see the argument on why alcohol is allowed and weed isn't. Like alcohol is a lot more dangerous to the liver. And the thing is, if it was legalized, I probably wouldn't do it anyway. Like, I've never done weed in my life. So I wouldn't try to even experiment what it is. Because the thing is, I don't want to get addicted. Like, that's the main thing. And the reason I don't want to get addicted is not because of my health, but it's financial reasons. Like, you get addicted and you have to pay for it every single fucking day. It's an inconvenience. Like, no, why? Why would I go through that? There's no reason. But just because it doesn't affect me doesn't mean that I don't have, like, strong moral issues about it. Putting something into your own body shouldn't be a crime. Well, it depends, because if you destroy your body and you become a burden on society, then that's a different question. Especially when you go through relapse and you become violent. And many of these drugs, like, they have, like, really nasty side effects. Like, for instance, cocaine has, like, really nasty case of paranoia, aggressive behavior. And the thing is, like, the difference between alcohol and these drugs is that they destroy your neuron receptors. So, you know, you can take a little, you can quit, but then you're still going to be less of a person than you used to be. So I can understand why, like, certain substances are forbidden, especially when you can be in a circumstance where you take it due to peer pressure without wanting. Like most drug dealers give you the first dose for free, you know, especially in prisons and stuff. So it's like, no, it's good that they're banned. We caught you with a handful of joints. My perfect take is when I see a lot of right-wing Americans wanting to ban pornography. And we're talking about legal pornography, right? So, like, they want to ban, I guess, everything that's nudity, everything that's, you know, like, legal. Like, not anything, you know, which is abhorrent. But like, you know, the stuff you see, I guess, on the internet. And I'm thinking, like, all right, so you guys already went through the alcohol prohibition, right? Where you arrested people for having drinks. And now you want to go through another prohibition? Like, what? You find someone that has a USB drive, and on that USB drive, he's got, like, some vanilla sex, and you want to put them to prison? Because that's what it means to criminalize it, right? Like, that's what it means to make it illegal. Like, isn't it better if you can just talk to people and convince them not to do it, rather than use the government in order to enforce your will in literally every aspect of a person's life? Prohibition kind of works, though, but you gotta be really cruel about it. You gotta, I mean, look at the Middle East, right? So in the Middle East, if they catch you, like first of all is the religion, right? Like, everyone is a believer, right? So in the Middle East, like, people unironically believe. The punishment for not believing is severe. And on top of that, the punishment for being caught with alcohol is also severe. You get lashings, right? So their prohibition works, because they apply it very, very harshly, very decisively. Meanwhile, the Americans don't. They kind of apply it and they kind of don't, and they're kind of soft on it. It's like, no, it depends. Like, how much do you want it banned? And the answer with alcohol in the United States is that people didn't want it banned, right? So because they didn't want it banned, then the rules were lax. Banning porn means the real crime associated goes up. I don't know about that. I generally don't know, but I find it, you know, like China banned porn, right? So, like, in China, it's illegal. And I'm thinking, like, imagine sending someone to prison because they have a Playboy magazine. Like, that's what we're talking about. It's just like, really? I guess, I mean, how many new prisons are you going to build? Because, like, there was a study that tried to measure how men that masturbate behave versus men that don't. Sorry, how men that watch porn behave versus the ones that don't, and they couldn't find men that don't. And even before the internet, because a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, like, the internet brought the access. It's like, bullshit. You used to have, like, these magazines. What is it? Like, in Britain, you had The Sun, right? Like, the page on The Sun with the girls, like, that used to be a thing. And even before the magazines, people used to have, like, just flat-out erotica where they would read books, right? And there were statues and shit. It's like, no, it was always there. Even the Romans, like, if you look at the Romans, my fucking God, they're so bizarre. Like, they had these little penis statues, and they have other penises for wings. Like, there's a penis that has, like, 5 other penises coming from it. Like, sexuality is part of the human nature, just like violence is, right? The same way you have statues with swords and muskets, and it glorifies violence. You also have like a different subsection that's dedicated to human sexuality. Al Capone vibes, yes. For prohibition to work, you need to spend a lot of money and build a massive apparatus. You also need people to actually agree. Like, you need the majority of the people to agree with prohibition. That's what you need. You can't enforce something. Like, look, masking up during COVID, right? Like, in some countries it worked because people unironically believed that they need to trust the science, right? So, like, in Germany, everyone masked up. In Israel, people protested because the government wasn't putting in measures. So people went on the streets demanding that the government cracks down on their freedoms. So in these countries, the pandemic rules actually worked. Like, vaccinations was high. People were wearing the mask. In Romania, during the middle of the pandemic, no one was masking up. At least not in my city. Why? Because the police didn't care. Like, they couldn't enforce it. Like, they couldn't arrest everyone. Like, what people did is, like, they would wear it as a chin diaper. Oh, a police officer. They would pull it up and then they would pull it back down. And it's like, you can't enforce something if people do not consent to it. Like, you need to convince people that it's for their own good, or you need to convince people that they should want the enforcement. Anyway, speaking of convincing, you guys should convince me to actually go and make my other 2 videos. So yeah, I'll see you guys later on my secondary channel. Hopefully you like this. Sorry for not showing my troll because the phone ran out of battery and I had nowhere to recharge it close to the computer. So I'll see you guys later. Take care.